of zombies, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Is it the slow, shambling hordes? Intelligent, tongue-in-cheek brain eaters? What about fast, aggressive flesh eaters? Or shrieking, virus-spewing infected? Or maybe you're just wondering where the hell Carl is. There's no wrong answer to this question, but with zombies being the reanimated horse you just can't beat to death cultural phenomenon they've become, I'll bet there's a lot of Daryl Dixon fans out there that aren't even aware of the magnificence that is the Italian zombie-exploitation subgenre. Now, for those of you who are wondering what the fuck I'm talking about, here's a quick explanation. When George Romero's 1978 classic Dawn of the Dead was released in Europe, the film was re-edited by Dario Argento and the score was redone by the always badass Goblin. The film was then retitled Zombie and released to great success. Following its release, a zombie film helmed by Lucio Fulci that was already in production was retitled Zombie 2 and marketed as a sequel. After that, a veritable flood of official and unofficial sequels to this unofficial sequel exploded onto the scene, as well as original efforts, all attempting to cash in on this undead craze.
Now, names like Lucio Fulci, Bruno Mattei, Lamberto Bava, and Umberto Lenzi are all synonymous with exploitation cinema, and these guys have all made fantastic contributions to the zombie genre, but I'm not here to talk about them. I'm here today to talk about Andrea Bianchi's 1981 underrated zombie apocalypse entry, Burial Ground, aka The Nights of Terror, aka The Zombie Horror, aka The Zombie Dead, and yes, it's also one of the many fucking films that has been marketed as Zombie 3.
Our story begins with Epic Beard Professor translating an ancient tablet in the study of his sprawling mansion. After making an incredible discovery, he grabs a flashlight and heads into the ancient tombs that just so happen to reside outside on the grounds. Unfortunately for him, the locals are roused by his archaeological exploits and are hungry and pissy. Cut to an opening credits driving montage, and we are introduced to our group as they arrive at the estates. This includes Evelyn and her young son Michael, a writer and his girlfriend, a photographer and his girl/model, the butler, the maid, and this fucking guy. Nudity! Right off the bat, you'll notice that little Michael seems to have a creepy relationship with his mother.
More on that later.
The following morning we get some exposition explaining that the professor had been researching the magic practices of the ancient Etruscans used to something the dead. Cut to the photographer guy taking pictures of his girl out on the grounds and... What? Yeah, I'm sure those twigs will come out looking real goddamn sexy, bro.
That's great.
We are so lost. Yeah, call me Jimmy. Oh yeah, call me Frank.
And then this happens. Why? Well, 'cause fuck lights.
There's nothing quite like using priceless artifacts for target practice while getting your ear nibbled by a guy with a huge schnoz.
Don't lie. You know you like it.
Don't ever hand someone a gun like this. And now it's time for my favorite zombie in the film to make its grand appearance.
Why is he my favorite?
Because he's got magic jelly beans growing out of his eye socket. After politely asking for a three-way and getting shot down, the chase is on as our moldy friends make their presence known to our hapless guests. Back at the rich douche gun range, things look grim for Evelyn and Michael, but luckily they manage to escape because the zombie's attention seems to be solely focused on schnoz.
I think it has less to do with him shooting them and more to do with, well, just look at him.
Look at him. Finally, Writer Dude and his lady see the zombies, and now everyone is on the same page so we can move on to more of the good stuff. Once he's done thoroughly pulverizing his girlfriend's ankle, we get our first zombie fight, and the survivors discover a crucial weakness these undead have.
Big fucking rocks.
Cut back to Evelyn and Michael as they are once again cornered, but this time they fight back by dousing two of the ghouls and burning them. A little bit of controversy with this sequence. While filming, one of the actors that Mariangela Giordano, the actress playing Evelyn, set on fire actually got horribly burned doing the stunt, and the director finished shooting before putting the guy out, because a real fire was too important to miss.
While this is an extreme example, I do miss this kind of passionate, no-shit-giving attitude that these older low-budget movies had. Now, I'm not saying we need to burn more actors, but do you honestly think that these people were told that they were going to have live maggots and worms on their faces? No. The director would just give them a little bonus and say, okay, in this scene we're going to smear your face with fly larvae and you're just going to have to pretend that they're not there and act like a fucking zombie, or we're going to get somebody else. The effects guys didn't make sure the blood and guts were particularly fresh or tasted good. And they certainly didn't spend thousands if not millions of dollars on crappy looking CG instead of spending that on something like, oh, I don't fucking know.
How about hiring a fucking director, actress, and script that actually fucking care? Our group is finally reunited at the house and make their way to temporary safety. Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll hold. The maid gets sent off on her own, of course, to make sure all the windows are closed and finds out the hard way that these particular undead fiends not only have the tools, but also have the talent.
Sorry.
After driving the horde away with a handful of shotgun shells, we are introduced to Spider Zombie.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves.
And the writer's girlfriend gets it via broken glass. Back to Model Girl, who's on her own for some fucking reason, trying to fend off a group that's broken down one of the doors. Man, she sucks at this. Luckily, our burly protectors spring forth to save her ass, and Evelyn grabs a machete and goes to town.
I'll admit, I'm a little turned on.
Hey, remember earlier when I said Michael had kind of a creepy thing going on with his mom?
I love you so much. I need to feel you warm. I need to touch you. When I was a baby, you always used to hold me to your breast.
Michael.
And uncomfortable.
So Oedipus runs off after his mom gives him what for, only to run into the writer's old lady who's a bit more undead than when we last saw her. And unfortunately for Evelyn, she arrives too late to save him and, understandably, flips the fuck out. No time to grieve, however, because the horde finally managed to break down the front door and it's time to get the hell out. The butler goes off to find a weapon but is summarily eaten by the zombified beard guy. But there's a silver lining, as the rest of the group manages to escape the house and hold up in an outbuilding for the night. The following morning, the 4 survivors stumble across a monastery, and our writer friend chases after a monk only to interrupt zombie morning prayer and end up as breakfast. While attempting to flee, the new trio run into a reanimated Michael and, you can see where this is going.
Yeah, he bites my face off.
Well, things aren't looking too good for the final couple, but I'm sure something will save them.
Oh yeah, this is an 80s Italian zombie flick. While this isn't my favorite Italian zombie flick, I definitely feel that it deserves more attention than it gets. Sure, the characters are forgettable and the story's nothing groundbreaking or even terribly original, but this is an exploitation movie. So if you're expecting heaps of social commentary and a complex story, characters with lots of depth and intricate motivations and backstories, cutting-edge effects, all wrapped up in a nice bullshit Hollywood ending. Well, I'm sorry, but that princess is in another castle, Cupcake. The things that stick out most to me in this movie are the tone, the overall feeling of the film, and of course, the zombies.
I love the variety we get with these guys. They range from looking somewhat fresh, to rotted, to downright mummified. They also don't make any noise, which adds to the creep factor, and are smart enough to use weapons and tools to accomplish those dinner plans.
What I meant when I said the tone stands out to me is that the atmosphere and general overall feeling of the movie is something that you can only find in these old Italian horror films. Every time I watch one of these old flicks, I always picture a doom counter on the screen, because that's where these movies always feel like they're heading. You're not expecting the happy ending.
We're not dealing with a man-made virus, space radiation, or chemical spills. No. We're talking full-on, balls-to-the-wall, end-of-times, hell itself opening up and spilling murderous hordes of the dead upon the earth level shit here.
And I love it. Now, I know a lot of people just aren't into these old, low-budget gore flicks, or even don't like exploitation movies in general, and they like more polished, higher quality films. But if anything I've shown or mentioned here sounds like something you might be interested in seeing, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Especially if you're a big zombie fan that's never had the pleasure of sitting through one of these bleak and sleazy old gems. Give this or one of the other movies that I've mentioned in the review a shot. You just might find yourself hooked. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's something I gotta take care of. That's right, my house.